everybody, my name's Kerrie. I'm an operations manager at Naturetrek, and in normal times we would be busily operating wildlife holidays all over the world. So today for Virtual Birdfair 2020, I'm going to talk about a wonderful destination. I thought for a bit of escapism really, and that is the Seychelles. Let me fire up my presentation and I'll introduce it and we will get going. Okie doke. So the Seychelles comprises of 115 islands, not a massive landmass when you put them all together. It's about 450 square kilometres, but that's scattered across about 1.3 million square kilometres of Indian Ocean. So everyone, I think, knows of Seychelles for its beautiful beaches and perhaps its rich underwater life. But it's also got an amazing land flora and fauna, so 110 endemic species of plant, including the coco de mer, legendary palm, 75 or more endemic animal species, the Aldabra giant tortoise, some tiny little geckos and all sorts, and some amazing birding. It's also really good example of some reintroduction and conservation programs in Seychelles, and about half of all of Seychelles land area is national parks and reserves, so it's a really good amount. So yeah, there's some really great examples of conservation going on here, and well worth a visit for anyone interested in their wildlife, and as a really good all-round wildlife destination, as well as a good one for birders who want to add a few more endemics to their species lists. So this is where Seychelles are in the world, so right there in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and then this inset map shows a bit more of the islands that we visit. So there's basically two distinct origins of islands in the Seychelles. The inner islands, these ones here on the insert, are continental granitic remnant islands, whereas the outer-lying ones, which are a long way away, so 1,000 kilometres from the capital of Magpie, closer down to Madagascar, they are coral atoll islands. So we fly into Magpie, where the capital is. This is the biggest island in the Seychelles down here. We start off our tour there. We then go to Praslin, which is here in the north, and that's kind of our base for exploring lots of the other little islands like Kuzan and Curieuse, Arid, Sister, La Digue. All of these islands have all got things that are well worth seeing. And then we hop all the way up to Bird Island, have a few nights there, and then finish back on Magpie and head on home. So to start off, this is Magpie. This is the beach there we're staying. So we stay in the north in Beauvallon. It's a really lovely area. Quite a normal standard hotel. We're not going to be booking into luxury honeymooning destinations. It's just not worth it when it's our base for the evening, so we can go out and explore and enjoy the wildlife each day. But it's on the beach, really lovely beaches you saw there, and you can start your day with a nice swim in the sea, or finish up there, have a beer on the beach when you get home. But we're going to spend our days looking for these chaps, the endemics of the Seychelles. Lots of birds you can see, some botany as well, some different reptiles. The beer, of course, is also very important for any good holiday. So some of the more common birds that we might see around is this very handsome Seychelles blue pigeon. You should see him all over the place. These lovely little doves are zebra doves, or sometimes called barred ground doves. We'll see them around too. And then there's the Seychelles turtle dove. There's also Madagascar turtle dove on Seychelles, and quite a lot of hybrids of the two. But there are places that we'll go where we'll know that we're looking at the endemic Seychelles turtle dove specifically. On one of our walks on Magpie, we'll go in search of this Nepenthes pitcher plant. So Nepenthes purvillei. It's the only pitcher that you find on the Seychelles, but it's an endemic there. Absolutely stunning, as you can see, and it'll just cover these rocks and mountainsides, and behind you have beautiful views out the water. We'll also do some birding around the tidal areas around the capital, Victoria. We should see all sorts of waders, so lots of egrets and herons, greater and lesser sand plovers, Terex sandpiper, Pacific golden plover, all sorts. The highlight that we're looking for here on this trip is the beautiful, delicate crab plover. And they tend to arrive back into the Seychelles in early to mid-September. and we tend to go from then onwards really to look. So hopefully, as long as we're back in time, we should pick up a crab plover during our stay on Mahe. We then move on to Prana, and we stay in a really lovely hotel here, a little family run place, and we specifically choose this hotel for a couple of reasons, partly that it's small, well located, and they're really nice, but also there tends to be a black parrot flyover each day, so you can get your group back to the hotel for maybe 3:30, 4 p.m. in the afternoon, get yourselves in position in the pool, and then look out for the endemic Seychelles black parrots. And they tend to turn up in the trees, and then they might fly backwards and forwards a little bit, so we can look for them there. Around the pool here actually as well, and all over the island, we'll look for other endemics, the Seychelles sunbird. There's also lots of Madagascar foodies. I saw a lot more of these in Seychelles that are actually than I've ever seen in Madagascar. They're really bright and colourful and lovely to look for. And then Prana's really our base, as I said, for exploring lots of other islands. We'll spend a day on Prana itself, but we'll also spend the other 4 days there looking, taking boat trips. And we have some absolutely stunning scenery as we go, beautiful waters and opportunities to snorkel and swim as well. And here on La Digue, we get onto one of my group when I went, called a balcony on wheels, head off to the Black Paradise Flycatcher Reserve. So we'll go there and have a walk, hopefully find this really beautiful Black Paradise Flycatcher. Now this one's not, this is the female obviously, so it's fairly rufous, the black head, and then we hopefully find the male as well, which is this beautiful long black tail feathers and that little blue eyeliner. So yeah, they're really lovely and we'll look for them. On some of these islands we'll start seeing our first wild Aldabra giant tortoises. Now many of these tortoises on the main Seychelles Islands did become extinct, basically because passing sailors would eat them and eventually ate all of them. But on Aldabra, famous atoll, probably, as I said, about 1,000 kilometres away from Mahe, so remote that people never reached it. So there's a big population of Aldabra giant tortoises there, and some of them have been reintroduced and have done really well on these little uninhabited islands around the Seychelles in the time since. As I said, there's some really fantastic conservation programs that have happened in Seychelles. This is a little Seychelles Warbler. So until 1988, one of the islands, Kuzan, was the only place where you found Seychelles Warbler in all of the Seychelles. Since then, there have been a couple of conservation programs and reintroduction programs. So now there are Seychelles Warbler populations on 3 separate islands. Similar thing has happened for the Seychelles Magpie robin. There was an instruction program to rebuild their population. And actually, when I travelled to Seychelles a couple of years ago with one of our groups, and we were really lucky, and we happened to turn up on an island called Bronze Sister Island, the same day that 47 endemic Seychelles white-eyes were released. So they'd been brought over the previous day from 2 other islands, Conception and North Island, to build a new population on Sister. I mean, the work that had gone into getting it ready is incredible. They went through a massive rat eradication program. I mean, if you have any rats at all left on the island when you introduce these bird populations, there's just no point in having done it. They'll be decimated immediately. So an awful lot of work goes into that and preparing the island. And then, yeah, we happened to turn up when these 47 white-eyes were released, and we had a chat with the chap that had organised the whole programme, and suddenly started hearing the little sounds of a white-eye around the corner. So the Magpie robin, as I said, was another one where there's been successful reintroduction programmes. And it's quite nice, actually. You can look for a giant tortoise, and quite often you'll find the Magpie robins following along behind it as it drags its tummy over all the leaves and dirt. That tends to brush up and stir up insects from below. So the Magpie robins will follow along behind the tortoise, picking up those little insects and worms and things. On all these islands, we should see lots of nesting birds as well. So there's often lots of nesting noddies overhead on the trees. These lovely white-tailed tropic birds with their really seriously lovely, fluffy little chicks just sitting there watching you as you wander almost centimetres away from the paths, really. And then beyond the birds, again, there's all sorts of interesting things to look for. So Seychelles skink, we'll try and track down. There's lots of different day geckos that we can look for. It seems to me that most islands have a day gecko named after them. There's a Ladigue day gecko and a Mahe day gecko and a Prailan day gecko. So we'll look for all of them. And we do spend a day on Prailan itself, and we'll go to the Valley de Mai, where there's lots of these amazing coco de mer trees, these huge palms, which have an incredible nut that looks quite like a lady's bottom. And these nuts were totally enshrouded in mystery for years, because if they fall off the tree and end up in the water, they're seriously heavy, so they'll sink. But as the innards of the nut gradually start to decompose, they release lots of gases, and that then makes the seed float, and they'll bob along and end up on distant shores. So before people in the Maldives, for example, had ever heard of the Seychelles being in existence, they'd find these nuts arriving, but because they were decomposed and full of gases, they would be infertile by that point. So they would never be able to work out where they'd come from. They wouldn't grow into anything. And Malay seamen would have seen they saw nuts floating upwards, falling upwards from the seabed. So for a long time, these other islands around the Seychelles all thought that they must grow on underwater trees. But no, in fact, they're from an endemic palm that's found here in the Seychelles. And then from Prailan, we head north to Bird Island. So it's about half-hour flight. And Bird Island is basically a private island, a private reserve, and a lodge all rolled into one. And it is an amazing place if you're a birder. Just phenomenal. So you can see the airstrip takes up a good chunk of the island there at the bottom. This is where all the lodges are. And then this top section is a city tern reserve, and it's just really great birding to be done throughout. Here's the welcoming committee and the giant tortoise. There's about 20 of them roaming around on Bird Island, one of which is Esmeralda, the oldest and heaviest tortoise that's known to live today. He is a he. He was thought to be a she for a long time, hence the name, but no, Esmeralda is in fact a boy tortoise. Beaches are beautiful. This is really idyllic stuff. This is my favourite snorkeling spot from Bird Island. You can just wander out. The water's really nice and warm. We see all sorts, big bumphead parrotfish, saw an octopus, lots of little damselfish and butterflyfish and wrasse and all sorts. So you can go for a snorkel to cool down in the afternoon, or wake yourself up in the morning, in fact. These are the lodges. They're sort of simply built and very eco-friendly, but really comfortable as well. And quite often you'll have a tortoise just passing by your back door. Quite often you'll find if you come back from snorkeling and you're hosing off your kit at your back door, the tortoise will come along and ask for a drink out of your hose. You can give them a little wash and cool them down. And then the bird life is just amazingly friendly. So there's greater and lesser noddies just perching on the side of your terrace. I actually started keeping a bird list of birds that had been inside my lodge, which got quite extensive during the 3 days that I was there. Lots of fairy terns, beautiful, really lovely to photograph, very approachable, very friendly. Again, lots of white-tailed tropic birds and lots to be found. We'll go wandering around the beach, around along the airstrip and through the trees, and you see lots of terns and frigate birds, great plover, curly sandpiper, all sorts. And then the real highlight of any trip to Bird Island has to be the sooty tern colony. So this is incredible. They nest here they'll lay their eggs sort of April, May-ish, and then stay through till October. And the very last juveniles will tend to fly off at the end of October. And in that time, it's about 1.5 million sooty terns will be here. So about 700,000 pairs. And it is a spectacle to behold. So we'll definitely go here a couple of evenings during our stay and just soak up the terns. As you can see along there, just the whole fields is just filled as far as you can see with these terns and flying off and coming back and feeding the chicks. It's just amazing. So that's where that tends to be our highlight. And then we'll head back to Mahe, enjoy a little bit more snorkeling and birding and general wildlife before we head home. So that's how I'm going to finish. Thank you very much for tuning in. So my name's Kerrie, and if you want to contact us about any of our tours or fancy a trip to the Seychelles at some point, then just let us know. My email and our phone number is there, so do get in touch. and we hope that you'll be able to join us on a trip sometime soon. Thank you very much.